Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Joker News speaking. Leave a like and subscribe, and let's jump right into this video. Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre first entered one another's orbits over 3 decades ago, forming a cross-community partnership between the LBC and the CPT. In spite of all the alterations to the music industry and the money that they've each accumulated, nothing has been able to sever the ties between these two OG rappers. Snoop and Dre's friendship is one of the most exemplary that we have in hip hop, to the point where they are so instrumental to one another's career that the trajectory of each man's life could have been vastly different if they hadn't come together, and that's true facts right there. However, what's perhaps even more impressive about their friendship is that it came about through sheer hapstance. And let me explain on that. I'm going to jump right into it. So, this is what Dr. Dre says. The first time I heard Snoop, it was when a friend of mine had a bachelor party. And this was revealed in HBO's documentary series, The Defiant Ones. But I'd met Snoop before that. He was selling drugs, and my stepbrother Warren G pops this tape in. I'm like, that's Snoop? I'm like, man, this is a fucking diamond in the rough, and we need to polish it up. Pointed in Dre's direction by his fellow 213 member, the then 21-year-old Calvin Brodus was so shocked when the architect of NWA called him that he thought he was being pranked. I hung up like, this ain't no motherfucking Dr. Dre. He couldn't believe it. Snoop said about their first encounter, he called back and was like, be at the studio by Monday. Once the pair linked up, Dre realized that he had an untapped well of promise before him that would forever alter both of their lives. Snoop comes in the studio and I put this track on. He's just freestyling and it was super sick. Then the thought of my solo album started becoming a reality in my mind, Dr. Dre said. And so, unshackled from Jerry Heller's ruthless records and armed with the buying power of Suge Knight's death row behind him, Dre wasted little time in bringing Snoop, who has actually just purchased their former label, aboard. Concerned that his solo career came into focus while in the young Snoop Doggy Dogg's presence, it's no surprise that when Dre's first solo single, Deep Cover, arrived in 1992, it featured Snoop at its core. Since then, Snoop has revealed that Dre actually hated Deep Cover to the point that he almost didn't want to put it out. Within 5 months of Deep Cover's release, Dre would release his first full body of work under his own moniker with The Chronic, and once again, Snoop served as one of the production masterminds preferred MCs to delegate to. And as it turns out, the man that would become the Dogfather went out of his way to ensure that he was, pervading presence on the record. And when I listened to the Chronic album, I'm like, how the fuck was I on damn near every song, is what Snoop told Crook's Corner. I was whooping ass, he said. They would be going home to get chicken. I'd be in the motherfucker all night. And that's his words, his own words. If Dre even had half of a beat or had the drums, I'd write some shit to the drums and come up with a melody. Before you know it, I'm on a song. I was writing so much. Dad's first song he was on, These Nuts, I wrote that whole thing because I wanted him on the song because I liked his voice. And that's what Snoop said. Although Snoop was at the forefront of Dre's seminal debut, the Doctor had bigger plans for his... But he had bigger plans for him than to be a part of an ensemble cast. Almost a year on from the 1992 release of The Chronic, Doggy Style would be unleashed upon the world. Debuting at number 1 on the Billboard charts, the record, which was fueled by major singles such as Who Am I, What's My Name, and Gin and Juice, made the Long Beach native into a global superstar. In Snoop's estimations, it played an unrivaled role in the popularization of hip-hop in the mainstream. It made it cool for white people to listen to rap, he said, as he reflected upon the album's 25th anniversary. I'm just being point blank about it. They was listening to rap back then, but they wasn't listening to no real, shit. NWA scared them. But Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre had them feeling like it was okay. It was okay for them to say nothing but a G thing. And MTV jumped on it and broke the barrier as far as everybody can listen to this. No one's going to judge you. They're going to say you're cool. You're actually going to be uncool if you're not listening to Snoop Dogg. Where hip-hop's crown jewels previously laid in the East Coast, the rise of Death Row Records, which was predominantly led by Snoop and Dre, meant that all of a sudden the sunnier climes of California had taken pole position. Seen as the vanguards of a new era for the genre, Snoop and Dre's dominance would actually play a central role in the burgeoning beef between the East and West Coast during their trip to the 1995 Source Awards. Dre obtaining the Producer of the Year honors saw him showered in a sea of booze, and like any loyal apprentice, Snoop stepped up to the plate to defend his mentor. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, he declared on stage during the infamous night. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop and Death Row. Y'all don't love us? Y'all don't love us? Well, let it be known then. We know y'all East Coast. We know where the fuck we at. East Coast in the motherfucking house. Despite the vehemence with which they defended the label and their home state at this point, both the men weren't long for the label after things between himself and Suge grew increasingly criminous, like Dre would leave in 1996 to set up Aftermath. As a result, Snoop's 1996 sophomore project, The Dogfather, would be devoid of any Dre productions and was overseen by DJ Pooh instead. By 1998, Snoop orchestrated his own departure from Death Row, but rather than heading to Dre's newly minted Aftermath imprint, he ventured down south to Master P's exorbitantly prosperous No Limit Records. Although they were no longer under the same umbrella, Snoop's move put a prompt end to their brief spell of estrangement in 1999, and Dre provided 3 tracks for Snoop's No Limit Top Dog project in the form of Bitch Please, Just Drippin', and Buckum, and in doing so fulfilled every hip-hop fan's wish list by allowing the LBC's finest to return to the beats that made his name. And so I got some video audio of Suge Knight and talking about Tupac, and a news reporter talking about Tupac and everything that happened, as well as another video of some interesting news, but I'm gonna let you listen.
Of course you have. Maybe through a way you've never thought. Let's just say we've all heard of Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, to name a few. Well, yes, I was correct. You have in fact heard of Death Row Records. But is Death Row responsible for Tupac's death? Death Row, formerly Future Shock and The Row, was an American record label founded in 1992 by Dr. Dre, Suge Knight, the DOC, and Dick Griffey. The label became a sensation by releasing multi-platinum hip-hop albums by West Coast-based artists such as Dr. Dre the Chronic, Snoop Dogg Doggy Style, The Dog Pound Dog Food, and Tupac Shakur All Eyes on Me during the 1990s. At its peak, Death Row was making over 100 million United States dollars a year. By the late 1990s, the label began to decline after the death of its star artist, Tupac Shakur, imprisonment of Suge Knight, and the departures of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. Although Death Row was enjoying financial success, it was embroiled in controversies, lawsuits, and violence by its artists and associates. In 2006, it was auctioned to Wide Awake Entertainment for $18 million on January 15, 2009. Have you heard of Death Row Records?
But, with all that crazy stuff going on and him owning Death Row and, him bringing it back like he is now, this is big news, and it's just only a matter of time to see what he does better with it and where he brings it, because he's going to bring it to new heights. And, shout out to Snoop, because Snoop Dogg's the man for doing that.